following podcast presentation features spoilers for the movie Mulholland Drive.
This is Diabolical, the comedy podcast where four long-suffering friends dissect film's most dastardly schemes, then compete to improve them. I'm your host, the best, and this week's movie is the simple tale known to fans only as Mulholland Drive. So, Peril Pals, try to ignore that cowboy stood in the corner of the room, because it's Wednesday. You know what that means. Let's get diabolical!
Did you say it's Blurns Day?
Yeah, I run out of days of the week. I didn't want to. Well, I didn't want to change my opening until next season. Was the thing?
Yeah. We fear change.
And we're right to. Hello and welcome to this week's pod, wherein these three wannabe starlets and I comprise the panel of peril who will compete to see who can improve the villainous plan of the week the best, to earn points for our leaderboard in the show's competitive round. But first, if you could tell our lovely peril pals your names and tell me, and only me, your favourite thing from the 1950s, please. And let's go alphabetic spaghetti.
Well, hello there. It's me, Adam. My favourite 1950s thing has got to be easily rock and roll.
Tit.
I've probably just stolen your thunder there, have I? So I'm glad. That makes me doubly happy that I've chose that.
What a contentious thing to bring up on a David Lynch podcast.
Yeah, it's rock and roll. I would say highlights would include Chuck Berry. Not so much a big Elvis fan, but I understand his contribution to the genre.
Big Bopper,
yeah. Little Richard,
Chubby Checker,
friend
of the podcast, Chubby Checker.
Bill Haley in the comments.
Very nice.
Hi, Ben here, and my favourite thing from the 1950s, and don't tell anyone else, the best, because this is just for your ears.
Shh, I shan't.
It's the emergence of rock and roll.
That title has been.
It bodes well that you both picked concepts rather than objects. You'll do well in this film talk.
Yeah.
Hi, Peril Pals, Craig here, and my favourite thing from the 1950s is the stately 1958 Plymouth Fury, which is the car from Christine.
Yeah.
What a car!
All right.
I would I give my nut? I don't know. I'd pay substantially for a car like that if I had the money.
Would you give someone else's nut?
I'd give someone else nut. I'd make someone nut.
All too easily. And my favourite thing from the 1950s, there's only one choice: hovercraft. Any day now, we're going to all be driving hovercrafts.
Wow, yeah. I feel like when we were kids, we were pretty convinced that hovercraft would become prevalent. And why haven't they?
But I think because everybody be crashing into each other loads.
Yeah, but it'd be fun, wouldn't it? It could be like bumper cars.
Yeah, but nobody you wouldn't be able to get anything done.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. We're trying to go down the shops, John, and he's like, just one more bump.
David Lynch's film Mulholland Drive was released in 2001 after having been shot in 1999 as a television pilot. It tells the story of a charming aspiring actress named Betty Elms, played by Naomi Watts, newly arrived in Los Angeles, who meets and befriends an amnesiac woman dubbed Rita, played by Laura Elena Harring, recovering from a car accident. The story follows several other vignettes and characters, including a Hollywood film director played by Justin Theroux, a bungling hitman, and a mysterious cowboy. Introducing a second set of characters, including Naomi Watts as a loser wannabe starlet Diane, at around 2/3 of the way through, further complicates matters, and has led to an unending debate as to what it all means over 20 years after the film's initial release. Tasked by producers to create a TV show that could match the cultural cachet of earlier hit Twin Peaks, and with creative carte blanche, Lynch set about his task in his own unique style. Surrealist, more than a little obsessed with the 1950s and its stylings, leaning towards melodrama, if not outright soap opera. The pilot, which ends before Naomi Watts' second character Diane is introduced, was rejected for being too strange. Idiots, what the hell were they expecting? Filming a definitive ending in order to turn the pilot into a feature presentation, Lynch's finished work was dubbed A Love Story in the City of Dreams and was shown to huge acclaim, winning the Prix de la Mise en Scène at the 2001 Cannes Film Festival and securing Lynch an Oscar nom for Best Director. Mulholland Drive has stood the test of time and features on just about every best films of all time list of note. Anywho, what did the panel think of this week's film? And we'll begin with Ben.
Well, this was my first watch, and I went into it ready for oddness because, well, David Lynch.
Mm.
But that still didn't prepare me for what I saw, which, as you say, is a mystery that sits somewhere between the real and surreal. Or so I thought.
Mm.
But then the audition-style twist hits, and you no longer have an easy genre label to give it.
Mm.
Becomes something totally unique, I think. It makes you second guess everything you've just seen, but it's so expertly done with, there seems to be an anchor for everything you've just seen, like a counterpoint, if you like.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just blows your mind when it happens and you think, what am I watching? And it's so great that every member of the cast commits fully to what Lynch is trying to do, because I think if one of them wasn't on board or phoning it in, it just wouldn't work.
Mm.
It's brilliant. So is it my favorite film that we've watched on the podcast? No. I think it's up there, and I think it's an exceptional piece of art crafted by one of the few genuine auteurs in Hollywood, and it kind of runs through your mind for hours after it's finished. So I give it, if you yearn for an experience that showcases the power of cinema as an art form, or you just like to see sexy ladies kissing, then why not take a drive down Mulholland Drive?
Oh, I get it.
You should have said, why don't you take a cruise down Mulholland Drive?
No.
No, because
I
Why
wanted to
don't
repeat
you
it.
thumb a lift on Mulholland Drive?
what he was doing, because the drive's in the title.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
It's a play on words.
Yeah.
It's
Clever
pun.
play on words.
It's lazy.
And that, my friends, is out of Drive. I mean 5.
Oh, wonderful.
Done it again. He's bloody done it again. Gold star for you.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on and hear Craig's thoughts of the film.
Well, in contrast to Ben, this is nowhere near my first watch. And if you think it stayed with you for hours after you watched it, you might find it stays with you for decades. I first saw this when it came out. I got it on DVD, and I've been rewatching it over the intervening years. I think this is maybe the 7th time I've seen it. And I love it, obviously, but I get something more out of it every time I watch it. And
Oh, yeah, I know what you get out of it.
yeah.
So, that's why you be watching it.
A nut.
This is a nut-heavy episode so far.
I think the sexiness of the sex scenes, although as sexy as they are, they're not long, are they? It might have been overstated by some corners of
Some
fandom.
might say not long enough. No.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Not me. They're perfectly fine as they are. Probably could be even shorter.
I'm one of these people who has tried to find meaning in it and also looked for what other people find in it. I think the important thing is that Lynch wants you to trust what you find in it, and whatever your interpretation of it is, even if you don't have one, you could just watch it and it's pure vibes, and that's cool too. But the important thing is that, just trust what your experience with it was. We could go into, and probably will, partially go into some of the theories around what's happening in there. But really, you can just enjoy it on a level that transcends any need for comprehension, and just enjoy it. And there's so many levels of meaning in it anyway. But yeah, I think it's a masterpiece. I've seen most of David Lynch's films, and I think this is my favourite. It's his masterpiece, and it just, for me, it demands like constant rewatches.
Good stuff. Well then, Adam, what say you?
Well, I say much the same as these guys, really. I totally agree with Ben that all the actors are just in 100%.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the performances they all deliver. It's something else. All of them. From when one of the first scenes is the diner scene, and you're just like, okay, it kind of sets the tone. And then, like Craig just said, I think because I didn't understand what had happened at the end. I knew I got the gist of what was going on.
Yeah.
But then I agree with you, Craig, that I think it's not there to tell you.
No.
This is what's happened. These are the motives, and this is what's the outcome is, and that's it. Good night.
Yeah.
It's there to let your mind wander a little bit, and like you say, you've been thinking about it for a couple of decades now.
Yeah.
And you probably still keep thinking about it, and for another couple of decades.
The more I rewatch it, and the more I think about it, the more important I've found it not to try and pin it down.
And it was like one of those. It's one of those films, though, isn't it? That ends, and you're like, "Have I missed something?" And there's loads of things when you Google Mulholland Drive. Like one of the things it says, Mulholland Drive explained. And I was like, I don't want to explain to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm sometimes slow on the uptake with stuff, but then at the same time, I think by having somebody else tell you what their thought on it, or maybe explain it to you, takes away part of the magic of it.
Yeah.
And that's what the magic of this film is, that it leaves you going and mulling over, and again, it's another power of cinema, isn't it? That it affects you deeply, and then you'll go back to it again, and maybe you'll see something else that it'll send you off on a different tangent. So
yeah,
I think it's the most powerful film we've watched this series. I don't know where it sits overall on all the films we covered, but it's certainly one for me that evoked a lot of emotion and respect for the characters and the subject matter and the script and everything. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So, with my opinion, fairly unanimous in our love for this film. It's as Craig was saying, it's right up there at the top of Lynch's very, very best work. He's done a lot of truly great stuff. It doesn't beat Twin Peaks for me, but then that's a completely different form, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's superb, and the deftness that Lynch had to turn what he conceived as a pilot episode for who knows how long, five seasons of television, and to wrap it all up in the final 35-40 minutes and have it make a reasonably simple way to comprehend what's happened, whilst leaving a lot of stuff up in the air, open to interpretation and mystery and confusion. It's genuinely brilliant, beautifully shot as well, as always with Lynch's work.
Yeah.
The nighttime work in this is great. Makes LA look nice, which I'm always impressed by, because it looks like a particularly ugly city in general to me.
In daylight it does, doesn't it? But at night, I think especially from up there on Mulholland, that's the magic view over looking down on it from above.
Yeah.
Which is probably not an accident, right?
Yeah.
Thematically on the nose as well. But yeah, I was amazed at how good it looked, considering, when I found out it was made for television. It doesn't look like it was made for television at any point.
I thought it did a little bit in the kind of first 3/4 of the film, but I thought it was on purpose. It was supposed to look a bit soap opera-y.
It's definitely got that soft focus, but I think that's to give it like a dreamlike quality. And I don't mean because of the interpretation as a dream, but just because it's the Hollywood dream,
Right. The best. You said it doesn't beat Twin Peaks. Does it beat Firewalk with Me?
Yeah, because that's a piece of a whole. You couldn't just watch Firewalk with Me and understand what the hell is going on. You have to watch the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It's it's not a standalone film at all.
It's an interesting one to bring up, though, because in Firewalk with Me, there's a section early on where what's the guy called, the singer, Chris Isaac? He plays an FBI agent in it, and he meets a woman with blue hair who physically mimes and shows him like how to understand the movie. And in the DVD that I bought, which was for the European market, and this doesn't exist in the American DVD, it had a list of clues to help you decipher Mulholland Drive. So you can look at that list if you are so inclined and try and figure out what they mean to you as you watch it again, which I've done a couple of times and come to different conclusions, and that's kind of fun. I like that.
Okay. Send me the links to that and we'll put that in the show notes then.
Yeah.
So, what did everybody think was going on in the film then?
I should probably go last here because I got a pretty comprehensive.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think you two have had a lot of time to think about it, but for me, it was just like basically it was like a jealousy thing, and there was some arrangement to have people killed, and then there was the circumstances surrounding that, and I don't know. I still need time to think about it and tie it all together because that was my last note. I said, "Oh, well, everything's been tidied up now." But will I make any sense of the rest of it? And I just put no. But I think that's, again, a work in progress. But I got the general picture of it. So
Yeah, I'd say so. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, so I thought when all these kind of anchors started popping up in the kind of ending section, and then you find out that she's killed herself. I wondered if you have that last moment where life flashes before your eyes. That's famously people say. I thought that perhaps that was what was happening, but she was so deluded. It was kind of the life that she wanted flashed before her eyes. And maybe that's what we were seeing. Because she mentions winning the jitterbug contest and coming to LA, and so that opens with you see the flashes of a jitterbug in, don't you? And then kind of a warped memory or a delusional memory before her death was what I thought it would be.
I think there's kind of different explanations for how it could be a dream. Like I remember Helen O'Hara in Empire saying that she thought it was just a big wank fantasy for her when she's wanking on the sofa. That's when she has the big flash of her being a starlet. The other version is that her being successful and likable and so forth, all of that first hour and a half or so, she is dreaming that sort of in the middle of the final Diane section, and it's sort of misplaced almost. It should be Act 2, but it's Act 1. Very, very long act, if you're taking it as an act. There's also a theory that the second set of characters that were introduced at the end are in fact just doppelgangers. I think that might have been Peter Bradshaw who came up with that, because that is something that Lynch does play with quite a lot in Twin Peaks and in Lost Highway. I'm not convinced on that one. I don't see how that makes any sense in this context.
It's not satisfying, is it?
No, I don't.
What's the point of it?
Yeah, I don't see that would mean anything or anything.
Yeah, the only satisfying part of that is saying the word doppelganger.
It's a good word, isn't it? Doppelganger.
Yes, there are horrific connotations with any German word, I think you'll find. Yeah, so it's for me that is the most satisfying interpretation. That the Betty sequence is her fantasy of how she wanted her life in Los Angeles to go, but her in-laws have died and left her this place, and she's just a bit of a loser, and she didn't make it like she wanted to. And it leads her to ruin jealousy of her friend Camille, and employing a hitman to take her out, and then succumbing to her own guilt and grief. That's the thing that makes the most sense to me. But I'm curious, considering all he's read and how many decades it's been percolating in his brain, what Craig thinks.
The most compelling explanation, or this is a mix of a few different ones. There are some people who've tried to explain it definitively, and there are parts of their explanation that don't sit right. But what I think is the key is that at the dinner, at the party at the end at Adam's house, Camilla says, I think in Spanish maybe, that she never went to Casablanca with Luigi. And Luigi is one of the mafia hood guys who kind of bullies the studio into taking over Adam's film. And I think the Adam's reaction to it and the other people around the table is like, okay, we believe you if you say so. And I think the implication is that she's supposed to have slept with him, and that's how she got into the big time. And the whole thing is about the casting couch and Diane's regret that she took the shortcut, the secret path at Mulholland Drive that Camille leads her up. One of the things that's known and been said about Bob in Twin Peaks is that he's not a literal person. He's a personification of an abstract concept of evil. And so we know this is a dream because it starts with your POV falling into a pillow. And then I think everything, almost, maybe there's a couple of bits in it that are not a dream, but I think almost all the rest of it is two different skews on a dream. The Hollywood dream and the bright, soapy, soft focus version of that dream, and then the dark version of it where it's almost a nightmare. But I think the thing about a dream is you're not always you in a dream, but it's always your point of view. So even like the characters in the diner, that the two guys at the start, they're still Diane's dream, I think.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the bit that could be she's genuinely awake would be the bit where she's masturbating, and also the bit where she's in her kitchen. But a lot of the stuff that happens around that and after it still has dream logic. So like the cowboy visiting her and Camila or Rita meeting her on the drive up to Mulholland, and sometimes she moves between places in a way that you couldn't physically. The lights going out in Adam's shoot when he kisses Camila. So what I think has gone on is that she has seen the casting couch work for other actresses and she wants to become a star, and she's taken that easy route, and it's worked maybe once or twice. She's got a couple of roles, she says to Coco at the table. Camila helped her get a couple of roles, that being sleeping with the director got her a couple of roles, but now that isn't working anymore. And I don't think she literally kills herself or Camila. I think, that this is the girl, is what she says, and she doesn't give the pimp / bungled hitman any money there. I think he's kind of a nightmare version of the cowboy. And it's been said about the cowboy that, because David Lynch says that he's wearing some authentic clothing of like the first ever Western star, and it's been said that he represents Hollywood, the whims of Hollywood, and that's why he gets to decide who becomes a star and who doesn't. Lynch has said a lot of that is down to luck, and it doesn't matter how talented you are and stuff, which is all a very kind of abstract interpretation of it, but it's the one that I buy. And there's a lot of evidence backing it up that, we could go into, but it would take a long time. But yeah, I think the scene of her, shooting herself is it's acknowledging the death of that Hollywood dream. And when the weird little versions of the jitterbug judges come after her, that's like a haunting of her by them because of what she became when she went to Hollywood. It is creepy as hell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird.
Can you just give us a quickly condensed version of what you just said over 4 hours there?
I don't think so.
Shit.
Yeah, I guess I could. Diane regrets using the casting couch to try and become a star, and it didn't really work out for her.
I've seen that one before. It's interesting. Okay.
What do you think the best?
I don't know. I'd never even considered that before.
There's a ton of lines that back up the idea that both Rita and Betty are Diane. Like when they're doing their little Nancy Drew bit, she says, "Strange to be calling yourself," when they call or her. I'm so confused to keep track of things. They're calling Diane on. They think they're calling Diane. Yeah, strange to be calling yourself. And she says to her at one point, "It'll be just like in the movies. We'll pretend to be someone else." There's a bunch of things that back up the idea that she's used the casting couch, like the audition scene where the older, sleazier actor says to, "What will your dad think of you? This is why actresses don't speak out about, Me Too." Or hadn't at the time. This was all before the Weinstein stuff came out, of course, and Lynch has spoken about that. One thing that I have wondered about is whether she maybe had an abortion, because Coco says to her at one point, "If there's trouble, get rid of it," which is such a loaded phrase, get rid of it. At one point, Betty says to Rita, "I should never have let you sleep on the couch," which is, if that theory's right, that's kind of almost blatant nod to the couch, and also backs up the idea that they're kind of interchangeable. Some people would look at that and say, okay, well, Betty is Diane and Rita is the concept of the back door into Hollywood, just like the rear entrance to the Winkies at the start, or they're both Diane and interchangeably kind of egg each other on. And quite an interesting thing at the start, one of the exec guys at the start says the girl is still missing, and the very next thing that happens is Betty shows up for the first time. So it's like within Diane's dream, she's dreamt all this stuff, but she's yet to manifest her version of, like the Hollywood dream. So that's when Betty appears and becomes that.
Okay. So what's the deal with the wee fella from Twin Peaks who's got a grown man's body? What's up with that?
That's a prosthetic body. So there's a thing in the diner scene where he says of the creepy homeless guy in behind the Winkies.
But that's Diane as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's one interpretation of it. I think it's kind of
the eyes looked like her.
It's what she wants to perceive as the seedy underbelly of Hollywood. Yeah. So he says there's a man behind the wall, he's controlling everything. And you think he's talking about that creepy guy, but actually the actor Michael J. Anderson, who's from Twin Peaks and Carnival, he is behind like a two-way mirror, and he supposedly controls who gets to be in the movies and who doesn't, and he works for the Cowboy. And a lot of Betty's version of the Hollywood dream is kind of focused around all of the reasons why she didn't become a star. Like in the audition, the director is the only person who's not gushing about her. Like the producer's there, the casting director's there, and it's like her first audition or whatever. But the director's just like looking down, and when they speak to him, he's like, "Huh? What's going on?" Yeah. And that's like in her dream. Oh, that's why I didn't get it. The director's a piece of shit, and that is borne out because when the other casting director takes her out of that audition and says to her, "This movie's never getting made. That director's like no good." She's like, "Oh, okay. There's a bigger audition coming up." Which, when she goes to that, the dream is that she locks eyes with Adam, and he'll go, "Yeah, I'm going to cast you in my movie." But the reason she didn't get it is because she could never get it because someone controls who gets the parts, either the Cowboy, Hollywood, or the people who secretly control who gets cast in things, like, the mob guys and Michael J. Anderson. That I think that's her in her dream state trying to convince herself it's not your fault that you didn't make it in Hollywood. You've got all this talent. It's all just everything's against you.
Just like to add the best part of that scene with the mobsters. I think it's the first scene with Adam in the boardroom is when Dan Hedaya just starts bellowing for no apparent reason.
Yes.
Coffee! Yeah. So
down as well, yeah.
Luigi, the other guy who has the espresso and spits it all over the napkin.
Dribbles it out.
He just dribbles it out, doesn't he? Yeah. It goes on for ages.
So I think that's Diane's dream processing of the idea that Hollywood producers are impossible to please.
Yeah.
Like the guy says, "Oh, we've investigated what the best espresso is and we've made it for you," and he still just goes like, "What?" And so
this is the world's finest espresso.
Yeah, that's her symbolically saying, "I was never going to make it because these people cannot be pleased."
Fascinating.
I also watched Sunset Boulevard because it's one of the things that inspired him, and it's also about this kind of soured Hollywood dream, and also involves a pool
and a boulevard.
Yeah,
as opposed to a drive.
No sunsets though. Enough. I think we might be ready to move on to favourite sequences, are we? Well then, let's hear Craig's favourite sequence from the film. This week's film.
Well, my favourite sequence in the film is that audition scene, because up until then, you've got the excellent Naomi Watts delivering her lines like a G-Shucks soap actress, and then you get to this audition scene.
Yeah.
And obviously on rewatches, you get the brilliance of that performance, but when you get to the audition scene, you get to see Naomi Watts like fully turning it on, and her performance in that back and forth with the sleazy older guy is fantastic. She's so good. And I just find that sequence so funny as well. It's also got one of my favourite lines in it, but mainly it's about like how everybody else in the room reacts to it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of comedy in that. There's a lot of tragedy in it. It like encapsulates the whole film in that one scene. So that's my favourite.
Okay, let's hear Adam's.
Just a word of warning, Adam. If you steal mine, I'm leaving.
I don't think you're going to pick this one. There's two that stood out for me, but I liked my favourite one is from Silencio, where the woman is miming to a Spanish song.
Mm.
And I was like, I recognized the music.
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is this? And then, of course, I held up my phone, and it's the Spanish version of Crying by Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
Is it Jorano or something like that, I think it's
Llorando.
called in
Yeah.
Spanish. So I was like, haha. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then, obviously, when it becomes clear that later on she's brokenhearted, and there's that sort of, it pays off, doesn't it, a bit later as well. So I was like, oh, okay, that's quite a
Yeah.
nice little thing in there. So
Yeah, that's great.
Good stuff. Well, then hopefully Ben has a different sequence that he likes.
Yes, my favourite bit was the botched hit. The body count
Oh,
just
God
kept on
almighty.
piling up.
Jesus, yeah.
So
It's
funny.
like Nordberg in Naked Gun. But
Yeah, it's
It's
brilliant.
horrible
reverse.
though, isn't it? It's a proper
The way his
horrible-
hair is stuck with the blood in it is very funny.
Yeah.
That guy who gets killed has a black book. And one interpretation of that is that Diane has really ordered a hit on Camilla. And her fantasy is that the hitman is so incompetent that he might not do it. But he does kill everyone there, so I don't buy that interpretation. But another one is this guy who's blabbing about the accident and laughing about it, and he's got this black book. He's indiscretion. He's maybe giving the game away of how sleazy Hollywood is. And the hitman is an aspect of the cowboy or Hollywood who's trying to keep that silencio. Don't talk about what goes on.
Hmm.
And that's why all those people get taken out. One of them being a cleaner,
Yeah.
which is kind of suggesting that
Yeah, that's
you
interesting.
can't clean this up. You can't sweep it under the
Well,
rug.
I just thought, those people will be privy to those kind of meetings and those
Yeah.
things that happen, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like the lady that he accidentally shoots through the wall, just being like,
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
makes
just-
me real bad.
Yeah.
My favourite sequence, I was going to go for that hit sequence. So, in that case, I'll go for the final sequence where, as you say, the tiny judge is slipping under the door and doing a strange little dance towards
Freaky.
the room
so creepy.
filling with dry ice and blue lights and strobe effects, which again is something that Lynch likes using a lot to freak you out.
Yeah. The only thing I've seen that's more disturbing than those two people going after her,
Is Billy Ray Cyrus.
no,
Oh.
it's the end of Twin Peaks with Laura Palmer screaming and moving very freakily across the Red Room.
Yeah. We move on to favourite lines. Who's up first? Let's say Ben's up first.
Well, thank you, ma'am. My favourite line is from the Cowboy. I liked how he delivered all his lines. Just
Yeah.
was
He's a producer.
is he?
Yeah. He does such a good performance.
He's excellent. Just with every line's is delivered with such authority. I like it when he's talking to the director Adam, played by Justin Theroux. He goes, I want you to stop being a smart aleck and think. Can you do that for me? Just the way he, like I say, he speaks with authority, just stops the director in his tracks. It's great.
Let's say sometimes there's a buggy and I'm driving. And if you fix your attitude, maybe you can come along. If you keep stum and you cast the girl I say, I'll let you be a big-time director.
Yeah.
Lynch will never let a studio take over his picture. He has final cut or he doesn't do it.
And he picks the ladies he sleeps with. All of them.
Exactly. All of them. But no, especially that one waitress from Twin Peaks that he's in love with, Machen Amick. What's he call her?
Something weird. And he calls Kyle MacLachlan Kale.
Kale, yeah.
It's how amused he is by it. It's like, oh, what a dork.
Oh, he calls her Madgekin. That's what he calls her.
That's it, yeah.
Madgekin.
And I call you Kale. Kyle MacLachlan's like, you do. Okay, Craig, what's your favourite line?
So, like I said earlier from the audition scene, but it's the way that everybody reacts to it, is the incompetent and unengaged director, Bob Booker or Bob Brooker, as his interchangeable name. He says, it's not a contest, the two of them, with themselves. So don't play it for real until it gets real. And everyone in the room is just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's talking absolute nonsense.
Yeah, he's good, that guy, isn't he? Yeah,
He's great.
Buffoonish.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam, show us what you got.
It's the scene where the mafia heavy goes to the director's house and he's calling his name, Adam Kesha, and then it's like thump, Adam Kesha, thump, Adam Kesha, and he doesn't blink. It's just great.
Yeah, that's so good.
So it's a bit of a combo there, but it's brilliant.
Billy Ray Cyrus is very good in that role as well.
He's
isn't he?
excellent. Yeah. He's the one dishing out the achy breaky hearts.
Achy breaky faces.
Well, he didn't dish that out. He got an achy breaky face.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and my favourite line is from the pool guy when Adam finds him with his wife, and he's getting quite upset, and what does he do? He pushes her against the wall, I think, and the pool guy goes, "That ain't no way to treat your wife, buddy. I don't care what she's done."
Yeah. Or who?
He's so funny. How gentlemanly he is when he's banging his wife.
Yeah.
And when he comes in, he says, "Just forget you ever saw it. It's better that way." Which, if you take it that's Diane hearing that becomes a slightly creepier and less funny line. But yeah, still.
Okay, well, we're going to have to go along with what I've written here, whether you believe this is the correct interpretation or not. So, in Mulholland Drive, Diane is a not-so-lovable loser who resents the success and popularity of her friend/rival/lust object, Camille. Hiring a sleazy hitman to silence her permanently, Diane pays the fellow a wad of cash, but the dirty deed does not bring her the fame and popularity that she craves so very much. The girls overcoming her, Diane takes her own life soon after, once she is presented with a blue key that signifies that the job has been completed. But what did the panel think of the evil scheme, regardless of whether you agree whether that was the scheme?
I think it's a pretty close approximation.
I think she's definitely, you can't argue that if there is a Camilla Rhodes, and there probably is, she probably is somebody who has married a director, hence her picking the name Rita in Diane's dream, because Rita Hayworth. And if that is the case, she would be envious of her. So I think that part of it is probably on the nose. And yeah, whether she killed her or not is up for debate, but I think it works as an interpretation. Why not?
So on that basis, how well do you think that she executed that scheme?
Not too well. I mean, she believes that it didn't work, right? Because her reference for it happening is, well, first of all, you get the car stopping on Mulholland, where the driver turns around as if to shoot her with a silencer. He clearly doesn't work for that pimp guy in the fucking t-shirt. No way. And even then, he looks more professional, but it still doesn't work because the car crash happens and, the amnesiac escapes. And then the other side of it is, like you say, the hitman is like a bumbling idiot, and the hit we do see him carry out, which is not on Camille, goes pretty. He kills them, but it's a mess.
It goes about as wrong as it could do.
Yeah. So if that is Diane going to him for a hit, she could have picked anyone else. It doesn't seem like a great choice.
I reckon it's hard to find a hitman, though, isn't it? They're not everywhere.
I don't know where you'd start.
Not in a diner, that's for sure.
Yellow Pages.
With two bouncers at a nightclub.
Yeah, she goes to a pub and speak to a man with a Jack Russell.
Yeah.
See if they've got a broom handle Mauser.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a hitman is never a solution to a problem. Has it ever worked for anyone? You're always going to get caught, I reckon.
No, there's probably lots of people that got away with it. It depends how good the hitman is. If a genuine hitman, if it's like there's loads of people that have hired people that have just turned out to be a bloke who's can go and buy a gun and kill somebody really sloppily.
And that's exactly what she's done, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
So, in that respect, she doesn't score high on the broccoli scale for me. She gets 3 florets of broccoli.
Oh, shameful 3.
Plucked
Not the magic number.
from the Hollywood Hills themselves.
where they grow wildly.
Wild.
Broccoli
Broccoli all over
wildflowers.
the
Adam.
Yeah, we don't know. I think we don't know whether she's achieved it, do we? So
No.
it's open-ended. Did she or didn't she? I simply cannot answer that question
Okay.
with material supplied to me.
I think that's totally fair. You don't know that
Yeah.
Camila's
Yeah, no,
dead,
it's
do you?
so-
No,
Also, you don't know if Camila is.
existed.
Yeah, is she Rita, or is
Yeah.
she that other girl who's got the Camila Rhodes headshot? Who is Camila Rhodes?
Is she a vision of what she would like to be and sort of
Right.
in love with herself kind of thing? Or
Yeah.
This, we could be here for a long time.
But then if that is true, and she does kill herself at the end, then she has succeeded.
Yes.
What a plan.
But if she hasn't, then no.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with basically what Ben said. She's hired an absolute jamoke of a hitman, just a fucking useless dickhead. You can tell just by his costuming, his hair, and everything that he's no good in a very literal sense, not just in a criminal sense. And she's not in the right frame of mind, is she? So you can't blame her. But yeah, not a good plan.
Did you notice he had Bowie eyes?
Bowie eyes.
David Bowie had 2 different colour eyes. Yeah.
All
I
right.
didn't notice.
No,
And,
He didn't have 2 different colour eyes, did he? What happened is he got a pencil stuck in one, so the iris was wider in one.
What?
I think that's correct.
I'm pretty sure they were different colours.
Oh, I don't know.
But it does say his left pupil remained permanently expanded. He was punched in the left eye. His friend's fingernails scratched the surface of the eye, paralysing the muscles. Bowie's eyes were blue, but because the pupil in his left eye was so large, it appeared black and made it look as though his eyes were different colours.
The more you know.
Yeah, so one looks kind of brown, I guess. But yeah, the guy has the same thing, the pimp hitman guy.
Suggesting that David Bowie was a hitman.
Was a friend of Lynch, and he's in Firewalk with Me, and replaced posthumously by a giant coffee pot of some kind.
That you can communicate with somehow.
Yes.
At length.
And I bet Lynch still does.
Before we witter on any further, we'd like to thank you for listening to our show so far. Remember, if you like what you hear each week, please subscribe, leave us a written review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts if you can. It is the best platform to help us grow the podcast, and you Peril Pals are an important part of that process. We still haven't had a review for quite a while now, you naughty so-and-sos, and we always get many new listeners when we do get a review, as it makes the show more visible on Apple's charts. So please do take a few minutes to write a few kind words. If you aren't on Apple, rate us on your provider of choice and follow us on socials at DiabolicalPod, and visit our wonderful website at www.diabolicalpod.com. We have arrived at the part of the show where the panel of Peril compete for precious Peril points on the Perilous leaderboard. Each member gets 1 vote, which will equal 1 point on the board, but do remember, you cannot vote for yourself, you saucy babies. Our task this week is to become Diane in order to become the Hollywood starlet of her dreams. By hook or by crook. Got it? I hope so. Now, let's do this! And we shall start this week's competition with Adam's scheme.
Oh, you bugger.
Not finished writing it yet.
No, I have. I just thought I'd say that. I didn't go first all the way through that, and then I thought he's going to pick me for the first plot.
First is worst.
Second the best, third the hairy princess.
Exactly. Can I go second? The best, the best, best.
No. Diane is a smart and attractive young lady, and she had bagged her very first big audition. Diane is clearly talented and absolutely smashes the audition. The assembled film folk are more than a little impressed. The producer is the only one who has delivered a muted appraisal. He approaches Diane and asks her to meet him in his office post-haste. Shortly thereafter, Diane is knocking at the office door of the producer, and he opens. The office is dark and smells a bit musty. He directs Diane to a sofa. That's my casting couch. Go on. Take a seat, he says, grinning widely. Diane looks more than a little sheepish and hesitantly walks towards the couch and perches on the edge of a cushion. As the producer sits down, a huge, impish smile paints his face. Diane prepares herself for what comes next. However, the producer motions to behind the couch, and Diane reaches down to pull up a basket full of dirty laundry, namely used gym socks.
Ooh.
There ain't a Chinese laundry in town that'll touch those bad boys. I've tried, and I don't blame them. They won't fit in a washing machine. Pile is all stuck together, he says. Clean them for me, baby. Clean them. Clean them and you're as good as hired, he says. Diane is disgusted, but holds the contents of her stomach down. She leaves and returns the next day with a pile of gleaming white gym socks. The producer chuckles as he receives his nefarious goods back into his hands. The director then invites her to his hotel, offers her a drink, some caviar, and motions for her to join him on the bed. As Diane tentatively sits down, the producer leans back and reaches under the duvet. You gotta help me, Diane. I was bored, so I dismantled my Corby trouser press, and I don't want it to show on my bill. I have alimony payments to meet, so every penny counts, he sobs. Diane is only too happy to help. As she meets other studio executives, the jobs keep coming. Whether it's emptying the casting director's septic tank, or doing the lighting grip's tax returns, or taking out the storyboards artist's demented grandmother, Diane is simply an all-round gifted gal. As her willingness to please her bosses by doing the jobs others would flinch at spreads across Hollywood, she becomes a hot favourite across the studios. Not only a gripping actress and easy on the eye, but multi-talented and willing to muck in.
So she's half Hollywood star, half odd jobs
Handyman.
Yeah.
Like Bette Midler.
Yeah, essentially the way I saw it, I was riffing on the Me Too thing, but they were just going, right, let's see what shit jobs she'll do, and if she'll do them, then maybe we'll give her a job. And if she's doing these horrible dirty laundries and septic tanks and things like that, and I just thought it was a nicer way than saying somebody was sexually molested by a horrible big fat producer.
Yeah. What you've done there is pretty similar to what I think Lynch has done with this film. So I have to applaud you for that.
My only problem with it is that Diane strikes me as a bit useless. Would she be able to empty a septic tank?
I think she's willing to muck in. When she first approaches with that big basket of horrible congealed gym socks full of God knows what, she completes that, and then it's on to the next job, and it just snowballs from there, and she just becomes.
Are they actually clean though, the socks? I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think she has the skills to actually clean the socks.
Oh yeah, she does.
She'll half-arse it.
What you might not have picked up on in the film, because I've watched it a few times and I picked up on this, is that she does know how to operate a telephone, whereas Rita doesn't. And she shows Rita how to operate a telephone, and she's like, "Watch this.
Look at this."
Yeah. So I think she's pretty handy.
Right, okay.
From my frame of reference and things that I'm able to do, I think that's right up there. And I don't mean like a cellular phone like kids have these days. I mean one like old-fashioned ones with buttons and stuff.
Good. Any more questions for Adam? Comments, concerns?
I've got one question.
God, Jesus.
What is the worst household chore that you'd be willing to do for a part in a movie?
I don't know. I've unblocked my own drains recently, and that, I tell you what, was a hell of an experience. So...
But you felt better afterwards, though, didn't you?
Whoa! Yeah.
Dancing down the hallway with the spring in your step.
Basically, the job included unblocking a drain that was blocked, and then when I unblocked it, I can only describe it. It was a shit tsunami coming at me. Fortunately, I didn't get covered in it. So I think if I can do that, I can do anything.
Excellent.
The goggles, they do nothing. Okay, well, second's the best. Let's hear from Ben.
Yes. Boo. Definitely not vote for you. No.
This is just because you consider me the hairy princess, isn't it?
Very much so.
Diabolicom.
Thank you for purchasing How to Be a Hollywood Starlet in 6 Easy Steps. I'm your host, Glitzy Catamaran, and together we're going to learn a tried and trusted path to movie stardom. So grab your popcorn and let's get started. Step 1. Write a scandalous tell-all book. Have you had a sexy affair with a comely Hollywood bigwig? Well, why not jot down your juiciest details, team up with a ghostwriter, and get ready to sexify the world. Bonus points if you're both stupidly attractive. Step 2. More exposure. Media exposure, that is. Once your book hits the shelves, it's time to make some sexy noise. Tell your sexy story to major publications like Variety, and watch as the world becomes obsessed with you. Sexily. Step 3. Hit the talk show circuit. There's nothing Oprah likes more than a sexy sexpose. So practice your best anecdotes, flash that $1 million smile, and a bit of nipple, and get ready to win over the hearts and loins of viewers. Step 4. Score some sitcom roles. Use your talk show fame to land roles in TV sitcoms. It's a great way to gain on-screen experience and show off your comedic chops. Step 5. Never stop learning and networking. Acting classes help you refine your craft, and don't forget to make strategic connections at industry events. Remember, it's not just about who you know, but who knows you. And finally, step 6. Land those meaty film roles. All your hard work will pay off when you get that breakthrough role in a major film. But don't be afraid to take a few low-paying indie films. They'll do wonders for your credibility. And hey, with all those book sales, it's not like you need the money. And there you have it, folks. 6 easy steps to becoming a Hollywood starlet. Remember, it's a mix of talent, hard work, and a little bit of scandal. If you enjoyed this video, why not try 7 ways to please your producer? Or 3 steps to a more confident you. See you in the spotlight.
50 ways to leave your lover.
Wait.
That's very nice. Did you download those tunes or did you make them?
Downloaded.
They're very, very good.
Yeah.
I considered doing a plan like this, and I stopped myself because I thought,
It's a little shite.
what would you say are the top 2 most successful American sitcoms?
Friends.
Seinfeld.
And Seinfeld. Who would you say out of the Friends and Seinfeld casts have had the biggest Hollywood movie career?
Jennifer Aniston.
Not a good one, is it?
It's pretty successful. She's still working.
I'd have her career.
Yeah.
I'd have
so
her
would I,
career,
yeah.
but she's no Meryl Streep, you know what I'm
She's
saying?
going to head up a remake of 9 to 5, baby.
Yeah,
That's
well,
pretty good.
that is good news, actually. But yeah, generally speaking, it's considered that the cast of Friends didn't really make it in Hollywood. And also the cast of Seinfeld, they have the Seinfeld curse, don't they?
Well, there's a new film coming out about the beginning of Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
That will,
Yes!
that will speak differently to that.
Looks like a load of old
Beginning
shit.
of Pop-Tarts. Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
No, but the point is, it's not take leading sitcom roles, just little pop-up ones, just to get
Oh,
you...
well, fair enough, because I'll tell you who had a small part in Friends was Brad Pitt, but he was already famous.
Bruce Willis,
So,
Tom
Jean-Claude Van
Selleck.
Damme. Yeah, but they were already famous.
Yeah. No, but I think like, for Seinfeld, for example, Courtney Cox had a smaller role, but then she went on to a bigger role later, right, in Friends. So yeah, it's a kind of a platform for a lot of aspiring actors to
She
make their mark.
did Dancing in the Dark with Springsteen as well, didn't she?
Yeah,
So
that was a big moment in her career.
What I realised, though, when I thought about the Seinfeld curse and the Friends curse is that there is a better hotbed of talent out there, and I'll tell you what it is shortly.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
But you know, it's not really a curse if you're earning shitloads of money and being.
They were
very
getting $1
happy
million
for the rest
an
of your
episode,
life,
weren't they? Something like that.
Yeah.
And if
they were getting
money
more
is
than that,
all
weren't
you care about,
they? Yeah. Then good for you.
I think Diane just wants, obviously the money, but the stardom and all of those Friends cast as stars.
she
all
says
of
to
them.
Rita that she wants to be considered a great actress.
Well, you don't consider any of the Friends cast bad actors, right?
No, but
Yeah, yep. Just let's leave it at no. Let's leave it at no.
If there's nothing else for Ben, then we shall move on to Craig's plan.
Diane has set her sights high, auditioning for a breakout lead role in the Sylvia North story. When she locks eyes with director Adam Kesher, she is overwhelmed by an epiphany that while she may be in love with the idea of Camilla helping her to win roles, working with the directors again subsequent to their first collaboration, and maintaining eye contact might be awkward. So, with some funds discovered in one of her aunt's hat boxes, Diane commissions a stout trawler and 2 crews, one to man the vessel, the other to shoot a picture, and sets sail for the legendary Skull Island, said to be inhabited by a fantastically large and amorous gorilla. Sadly, when they arrive, several members of the crew are killed, ravaged by dysentery. And reports of the stature of the resident primate population turn out to be exaggerated. This one's pretty big, I guess, remarks director Cecil B. Demented, just before his face is fucked off by the Randy ape.
Fucked off.
Uh-oh, you've got him. You've got him.
Oh God.
I knew you'd like that. Fleeing the island, Diane and the surviving crew wash up in Victoria on the nearby island of Australia, a former penal colony that has somehow developed several pockets of functioning society. Diane crawls up the beach and is greeted warmly by several producers from the nearby Fremantle Media Studios, who, pleased to hear she can speak English, immediately cast her in long-running soap opera Neighbours. After 2 years playing coffee and pie-obsessed FBI agent Diane Evans, Diane's character cracks the case of who killed Libby Kennedy, and with her storyline petering out, it's not long before Hollywood comes calling. Following brief stints on Lost and House, Diane lands a role in The Wolf of Wall Street, and then all of the things Margot Robbie would have been in during the original timeline. As for Margot, she wakes up back in her own car and shoots Robert Loggia, thus fulfilling her contractual obligation to the mystery man.
Robert Loggia or Robert Forster?
Loggia. That's a Lost Highway reference.
Oh, I don't know that.
Don't worry about it. Just you know what it means from how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm confused.
In a nutshell, the route to Hollywood stardom is Neighbours.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you've said Margot Robbie, who's, I mean, there are a few that have made it, a few that haven't. Margot Robbie would have been in 11 in 2001.
So
She wasn't in Neighbours then.
what?
You just
I'm not
said
saying
that-
she is Margot Robbie.
No, you said she
I'm
took all
saying-
the roles that Margot Robbie would have had, is what
Yeah.
you said.
Eventually, yeah.
Even though she's like 10 years older, at least.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
It does. Because 2001, rather than Margot Robbie, the equivalent would have been Holly Valance playing Felicity Scully. And what did she do in Hollywood? You tell me. You
I'll
tell
tell you
me.
for one thing, the year's never specified in Mulholland Drive just because it was released in 2001 to mean
Yeah.
set in 2001. It's in a completely anachronous timeline.
Oh, so you said it could be set long before. So it could have been set long before Neighbours even existed.
Well, could be set whenever I want. The point I'm making is
Well, in the future.
the route to stardom is Neighbours, and even if she is older, she could still get those roles because she's Diane fucking Selwyn, mate. She can get whatever role she wants.
What's the character name in Neighbours?
Diane Evans.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Just doesn't work.
Sorry,
Not as
not
good as
buying
Felicity Scully.
it. Flick, Scully, flick.
I almost gave her the name Button.
Who's your favourite star to come out of Neighbours, Craig?
My favourite or the most
Yeah.
successful?
Your favourite?
Favorite.
Probably Guy Pearce, I guess. Really love Memento.
Yeah.
I like Rhoda Mitchell. I think she's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah.
Wasn't she
Silent
in
Hill,
old
Rogue.
Silent Hill? Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Right.
Pitch Black, wasn't she? Was she in that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah,
excellent in
Great
that.
in that,
Yeah.
yeah. Kylie, of course. Got a lot of time for Kylie.
Yes.
Yeah. I like Natalie Imbruglia.
I like Mark Little.
Yeah, he's still going, isn't he?
Yeah, I remember watching him play against Colwyn Bay Football Club. He acquitted himself pretty well.
He was on. I was watching the cricket, I think, last year, and he was talking on that as well. He was at one of the cricket grounds.
Joe Mangle, best character name. Joe Mangle, can't beat that.
No, that's true. What was his mum called, though? Mrs. Mangle.
Mrs.
Mangle.
Mrs. Mangle, yeah.
She had the longest neck in the history of actors. She looked like one of those Caminos from Clone Wars.
Well, then, I think it's about time for me to bring us home.
I'm so excited.
Should be. It's significantly different to the 3 preceding plans.
Bollocks.
And so, entertainment is all but guaranteed. Oh, I just love chocolate. I can't eat it because then I'll get fat. But it's so good. Not my words, but the words of Brian the Dog Griffin from the television show Family Guy. Sage advice, but what does Hollywood love if one cannot make it as one of the beautiful people? That's right, Hollywood loves what you used to be allowed to call freaks before political correctness went mad and then woke. Big bad booty daddies, freakzillas, and sundry Scott Steiner catchphrases. Therefore, I propose that Diane gorge herself on as much chocolate as she can afford with her hefty inheritance. And none of that American chocolate that tastes like sick either. She can have the good stuff. Cadbury's Flake, Black Magic, Cadbury Roses, Heroes, all the creme de la creme of British chocolate, and that's including cream eggs, okay? Once she has swollen herself to gargantuan proportions, she will be in demand to play roles such as Marlon Brando in a biopic of Marlon Brando, Big Daddy in a biopic of Big Daddy. That was the punchline to that one. And the Whale in The Whale. Due to her size, Diane will literally eclipse Camille's star, and that smarmy fucker Adam is more than welcome to her.
That's it, just gain weight. I'm purposely gaining 61 pounds to get in Hollywood.
I posit that rather than film roles, what Diane would get is diabetes.
You get both. Why
I
not?
think it'd take a number of years to get diabetes.
It's not mutually exclusive.
I think going from her current weight she's at in the film, which is perfect weight, ideal weight, isn't it, to ballooning, I think she'd be safe from diabetes, I reckon.
Where did you get your fucking MD? Where did you get your license, Doc?
From the, upstairs medical Hollywood school.
From the blooming University of Life.
Yeah.
Tell you how I know this is true is Christian Bale. He did that, didn't he?
Yeah.
What, the night school for doctors?
And deliberately put on loads of weight.
I mean, he deliberately lost shitloads of weight as well, didn't he? For the
and then he put it back on.
For the machinist.
Then he took it off again.
Chris,
Then he put it back on again. Then he took it off again.
All right, the best. How many lead roles in Hollywood can you think of in recent times or throughout history that have been given to a person of heft?
Well, you got The Whale.
Okay.
You've
Was
got
Free Willy.
Which was
Free Willy's pretty heavy.
Okay.
Brando played that in the original time.
Yeah.
The Whale.
Yeah.
There was some CG there, right? An additional makeup.
Yeah, but they can do that with Dan as well. She's got a solid base for it, and they can graft a bit more onto it.
But what does Brendan Fraser have that Diane doesn't?
Cock and balls.
Apart from that, he's also a fairly big name. You think they're going to cast an unknown in that role?
Well, she's already made a name by playing Marlon Brando in the biopic of Marlon
fair
Brando.
enough.
You see,
So she's big.
Also, that was a comeback role for Brendan Fraser. He hadn't been a name for a while.
But he still is a name.
Yeah.
He has a name.
He does.
We all have names.
His name is Robert Paulson.
I feel like it's plausible though. If you can't do something with raw talent and grafting at it, just try and make
gain
yourself.
weight.
Well, just try and make yourself stand out visually to attract attention and be like, got to have that in my film, that there, that thing there, that.
All of that.
Well,
Yeah.
we know that's how Zack Snyder casts all his roles, right? just from headshots. No auditions required.
Well, those plans, if I'm not mistaken, were slightly less confusing than the film's actual plan, were they? We had Adam's casting couch odd job / film star plan.
Yeah.
Ben's 6 easy steps to success plan. Craig's jobbing actor on Neighbours to Hollywood pipeline plan. And my putting on a lot of weight plan. But there can only be any and everyone who gets points on the board. So with that, if we could all cast our votes, that would be a real good treat.
Okay.
Let's hear who Ben voted for.
Well, I voted for the plan that I thought would probably work the best, except for mine, obviously. Doing favours for others probably will get you some kind of reward in the end. So
Sure.
I voted for Adam, and I've drawn a smelly gym sock with some stink lines.
Thank you.
Then let's hear whom Adam casts his vote for.
Well, it's a bit of mutual back scratching here, so I'll just say I'll vote for Ben.
Yes.
Ooh.
He was in dire need of points, that poor Ben. Dire need.
Then let's hear who Craig casts his vote for.
I went for the plan that I felt was the one most after Lynch's own heart. Hello.
Oh!
Sparkling.
Thank you very much.
And I voted for the plan with the most demonstrable real-world success, and so I voted for Craig.
Ah.
What, going to an island called Skull Island, seeing the director get his face fucked off by a monkey? That's the most real-life application.
That was a red herring. That was a bit of fun to get you to
Yes.
Australia. That wasn't the plan.
It's
The plan was
also-
Neighbours.
Skull Island is nowhere near Australia.
It's also happened at least 4 times since the 1920s that people have gone to
True.
Skull Island and bad stuff's
True.
happened. So, you know.
Also, Skull Island, not
Yeah.
real.
It's,
You can see wherever I want.
It's a joke, Craig.
it's not as bad as Candy Apple Island, is it?
Apes, but they're not so big.
And with that, the scores currently stand at in the lead with fucking 19 points. I nearly said 14. 19 points is Craig. In second place, just a point behind with 18 points is Adam.
Bloody hell.
Ooh.
In third place with 16 points is the best. And hang on.
I think that's right, because you were tied with Adam last week. And so I should have
Were you?
15 points, I think, this week.
Yeah, okay. I just suddenly convinced myself that I hadn't added your points on, Ben.
Oh, no, you haven't. I should be on 21 points.
And bringing up the rear with 15 points is Ben.
Ooh.
Still quite
Tight as
close,
a
isn't it?
duck's arse.
9 points left.
9 points left. Indeed. That will do us for another batch of evil schemes, but we shall return next Monday for another dose of podcasting and punctiliousness with Craig's choice of film, if you would be so kind as to reveal your choice, please.
Well, it's a tradition around here to do a Batman film once per season.
Oh.
It's a recent tradition, only a year old, but a tradition nonetheless. And I want to go around the houses and feature yet another Joker. Some would say the best definitive Joker, and that's Mark Hamill, because the film we'll be watching is an animated Batman movie,
Ooh.
spun off the infamous Batman the Animated Series. Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Good choice. I'm looking forward to watching this one. I haven't seen it for many years. Join us next week as we discuss the Phantasm's evil scheme and probably their mask too. Until then, remember, everything will be alright in the end, and if it isn't alright, then it isn't the end.
What's the biggest Hollywood song?
Ooh.
I don't know.
I think it's probably the song that I hate the most, isn't it? Fame!
Wanna
I'm gonna
live
make it to
forever.
heaven.
I'm gonna learn how to fly.
Hey!
I think that was number one when I was
Conceived.
born.
Oh, born, yeah.